Xenosystems Fragments. Cladistic Meditations. Nickland. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Neo-reactionaries have a thing about Puritanism. Whether or not this trait is conceptually essential is a question for another time. The important point, right now, is that it serves as a cladistic marker. Whatever it might be that neo-reaction speciates into, it bears this trait as an indication of cultural ancestry, bookmarking the root code archive of Mencius Moldbug. When reconstructed as an argument, the Moldbugian clade proposes a species of ethnographic categorization on a loosely Darwinian, and strongly evolutionary, model, according to which cultural phenomena are logically nested, in tree-like fashion, revealing a pattern of descent. When considering an English Darwinian evolutionist, who is also an example of contemporary political progressivism, Moldbug makes this mode of analysis explicit. My belief is that Professor Dawkins is not just a Christian atheist. He is a Protestant atheist. And he is not just a Protestant atheist. He is a Calvinist atheist. And he is not just a Calvinist atheist. He is an Anglo-Calvinist atheist. In other words, he can also be described as a Puritan atheist, a dissenter atheist, a nonconformist atheist, an evangelical atheist, etc., etc. This cladistic taxonomy traces Professor Dawkins' intellectual ancestry back about 400 years, to the era of the English Civil War. Except of course for the atheism theme, Professor Dawkins' kernel is a remarkable match for the ranter, leveler, digger, Quaker, fifth monarchist, or any of the more extreme English dissenter traditions that flourished during the Cromwellian interregnum. If there were 39 articles of neo-reaction, some suitably compressed version of this cladogram would constitute the primary tenet of the creed. Among the logically most attenuated twigs of this scheme, subspeciated to the limit of cladistic definition, is found the globally dominant sovereign instance of advanced modernity, the cathedral, the enemy. It is not surprising, therefore, that the Puritan question remains the core preoccupation of the neo-reactionary Dark Enlightenment. This has been illustrated with consummate clarity by an article posted by J.M. Smith at the Orthosphere, contesting the Christian genealogy of the cathedral, and the subsequent rejoinder by descendants of the neo-reactionary clade, of varying religious persuasions. Fawcett reacts with some bemusement to the polemical framing of the Smith text, because what he encounters is an argument without disagreement. At the Orthosphere, there's a post purporting to argue that the cathedral was not constructed by Christians. Presumably the title was changed by someone other than the author of the text of the post, because the post ably demonstrates that Christians did in fact build the cathedral. Indeed, the post is recommended. Cladistic method contributes significantly to an understanding of these relationships. In particular, it is essential to grasp the logic of taxonomic naming, which perfectly corresponds to pure genealogy, and the ideal reconstruction of evolutionary relatedness. The crucial point, a cladistic name refers to everything that is encompassed by a splitting off, speciation, or schism. At the risk of superfluous explanation, it might be worth rehearsing this logic with a colloquialized biological example, using familiar rather than technical taxonomic descriptors. Paleontologists are supremely confident that amphibians evolved from bony fishes, and reptiles evolved from amphibians. This can be reformulated, without loss of information, as a cladistic series of branchings, with bony fishes including amphibians, which in turn include reptiles. In other words, as a cladistic name, a bony fish describes an initial speciating split from an ancestral clade, which, projected forwards, encompasses every subsequent speciation, in this case amphibians and reptiles. Both amphibians and reptiles are bony fish. So are mammals, apes, and human beings. Bony fish, as a clade, comprehends every descendant species that has bony fish ancestry, whether extinct, still existent, or still to come. Nothing that has bony fish ancestry, however distant, can ever cease to be a bony fish, whatever else it becomes, in addition. Cladistically, it is obvious that humans are bony fish, as well as far simpler and more primordial things. Smith writes, a great schism rent American Protestantism in the early 19th century, with the sundering fissure tearing through denominations, and even congregations. Protestants on one side of the fissure called themselves liberals, those on the other side called themselves orthodox. Liberal Protestantism is a new, post-Christian religion that in its early stages opportunistically spoke in a Christian idiom, but nevertheless preached a new gospel. We have seen, however, that from a cladistic point of view, nothing arising as a schism from X ever becomes post-X. There is no such thing as a post-bony fish, a post-reptile, or a post-ape. Nor, by strict logical analogy, can there ever be such things as post-Abrahamic monotheists, post-Christians, post-Catholics, post-Protestants, post-Puritans, or post-progressives. It is a logical impossibility for ancestral Clades to ever be evolutionarily superseded. To have Christianity as a cultural ancestor is to remain Christian forever. That is no more than terminological precision, from the Cladistic neo-reactionary perspective. Steves elucidates the same point in a closely related vocabulary: there are atheist Catholics. Why? Because being Catholic is cultural. It is not only that, but it is also at least that. Cultures are genealogically or cladistically organized, that is the neo-reactionary presupposition. Lateral complications are not entirely inconceivable, linked to a truly ghastly Wikipedia entry on an important thought, the non-tree-like network. That's not for now. What, though, of neo-reaction itself? What did it split from? Like everything else under investigation here, unless it is comprehended as a schism, it is not comprehended at all. When cladistically approached, the primordial split is the ineluctable question of identity, or persistent ancestry. We can, perhaps, postpone it momentarily, but it will eventually lead us in directions that are more than a little Lovecraftian. What was the last thing that neo-reaction was submerged within, before arising through schism? That investigation has to await another post.